So some of you want some help on completing the square. So I'll do a problem where you have to complete the square and use a quadratic formula, and we should come up with the same answer each time. For the first one, we're going to complete the square. We're going to clear out the negative 12, bring it over to the other side. Kind of put a placeholder there. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. I'm going to get 6 on the right side. And then I'm going to add something to the left side, so I need to add the same thing to the right side or decide what I want to complete the square with. The trick that we learned in class, take half of the 8, so that's negative 4, because it's negative 8, square. And since I'm going to square that negative 4, so I'm going to get a positive 16 here. If I actually took that x minus 4 separately, you don't have to do this, but and multiplied it all out and combined like terms, I should end up with that problem right there. We're just going in the opposite direction. And then on the right side, I have to also add the 16, because I need to keep the balance. That turns into a 22. Now we're going to take the square root of each. Now it's just a matter of just solving algebraically. So the square root of each side. You can put a plus minus there. The square and the square root cancel. So this is all gone. And I just left with plus or minus the square root of 22. I'll put the 4 on the other side. So I get x equals, you can put plus 4 on the end, or I'm going to put mine right in the beginning. So I'm going to go positive 4, because I'm going plus 4 here, plus 4 here. So 4 plus or minus the square root of 22. So in my calculator, I'm going to type in 4 plus the square root of 22, get an answer, and 4 minus the square root of 22, and get an answer. My two answers should be 8.7, but I'm rounding it approximately, and negative 0.69. So two answers. Put an or there if you'd like. All right. Hopefully we'll get the same answer when we do it using the quadratic formula. So here, using the quadratic formula, instead of bringing the 12 to the right side, we're going to actually bring the 6 to the left side, because we need to make it equal to 0. So plus 6. So here, 6 plus 12 is actually negative 6. So just minus 6 equals 0. These together. So my a is 1, the coefficient of x squared. My b is negative 8, and my c is negative 6. And I can plug these numbers into the quadratic formula. Maybe I'll write it down for you. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we have x is the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared. So right away I'm going to put 64. Just do that in my head. If you try to type in negative 8 squared on the calculator, you might mess up. And here you might want to go plus negative 4. It might help. So minus 4 times a, which is 1, c is negative 6, all over 2 times 1. So it's just 2. Simplify the discriminant, which is the stuff under the square root. So we have 8 plus or minus the square root. If you think of this, two negatives here become positive. So it's negative 4 times negative 6 is positive 24. And 64 plus 24 is 88. So I would get this far. And then in your calculator, you will just type in 8 plus the square root of 88. Don't get that decimal. Don't round it at this point. Hit equals, and then divide by 2 and hit equals again. That's what I would suggest. And then you'll type in 8 minus the square root of 88. Make sure you hit equals, otherwise you're going to get the wrong answer. And then divide by 2. And we'll get the same answers. 8.7 for the first one. I don't know if I can squeeze it in over there. And negative 0.69 for the second one. Okay. I'll throw one more on there for you if you want to practice. So go ahead and pause it if you want and try this one on your own. You can do it both ways. You should get the same answer. I'm just going to show it the completing the square method. So hit pause right now if you want. Try it, and then I'll go for it. So completing the square, I'm going I'm going to clear my 4. So I have, I'm going to put a blank like a placeholder here. It was negative 13. And I'm going to add something to it in a minute. So these two together just gives me that negative 13. I'm going to take half of that 18. In this case, there's a plus from right here, so I can keep the plus here. Half of 18 is 9. 9 squared, 81. So that's how I know I'm going to add 81 to both sides. And when I combine the right side to do 81 and negative 13, I'm going to get 68. And then it's just a matter of using algebra to solve. So you can cover up method, or this makes more sense algebraically because we're going to get decimals. So just, don't forget the plus minus in front of that square root on the right side. The square and the square root cancel. Just undoes each other. That's the whole point. And I'm just going to leave plus or minus the square root of 68. And then I'm going to subtract 9. So negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 68. And then I'll plug in my calculator. Negative 9 plus the square root of 68. And negative 9 minus the square root of 68. You don't have to divide by anything if we're not using the quadratic formula. And the two answers should be negative 0.75-ish or negative 17.25-ish. And you can always check your answer. You can take that, like for example, take this negative 17.25 and plug it in for x here and here. And do negative 17.25 squared plus 18 times negative 17.25 minus 4 and hit equals and see if you get 17, and you will. All right, thanks. Good luck on your test.